My friend Elizabeth from Ohio came to visit New York City last week, and she called and I invited her over to lunch. In the middle of the lunch, she said, "Susan, do you remember when we first spoke to each other over 40 years ago?" I said, "Oh, Elizabeth, I remember." I transferred in college in my junior year from a small school in New Concord, Ohio, Muskingum College, to New York University. And my mother drove me up from Philadelphia, where we lived, in September of my junior year, to the dorms at Washington Square. When we got to the desk, they said that there was no room for me. Well, I was registered for the classes, but they had no room for me. After much time, I said, "Mother, the only thing I can think of is my friend Ronnie in Ohio gave me the name of this girl named Elizabeth that I should call if I felt lonely." So I went over to the desk and I dialed Elizabeth. "Elizabeth, this is Susan Calhoun." "Oh yeah, Ronnie told you? Oh good. Yeah, Elizabeth, I am here. I'm at the dorm, but the problem is they have no room. They have no room for me, so I'm actually calling you to say, do you know anybody where I might stay or call? The top bunk? Oh, I love top bunks. No, I have very little with me. 117 East 60th Street? Well, we'll see you soon." So my mother and I went up the 4 flights of stairs with my suitcase and met Elizabeth, Patty, her roommate, and a little puppy that Patty had just gotten named Lucky. The apartment was really small. I mean, there was a big brown couch in the living room, about that was it. And then you just turned and there was a bunk beds with a blue ladder going to the top, and a tiny, small refrigerator, and maybe a hot plate. My mother said, "Good luck." Patty had a big smile and bright eyes, and she worked for the president of Bendel's on 57th Street. She wore earrings and heels to work. And Elizabeth was petite and blonde, and the first thing she said to me is, "Susan, I have a hearing aid that comes out, so it's quiet, and I can study." She was a senior at NYU. Down the hall in the studio was a woman who was very gray hair, gray skin. She said she was a gypsy and she drank vermouth for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We kept our door open, so she was on our couch, and as the day went on, she became slower and slower in talking and in moving. Mr. Tumanoff was downstairs. He owned the bistro next door, and Patty spent a lot of time there because she got free food and espresso. He also was a painter by hobby, and she modeled. I waited for Patty to climb in the bottom bunk, and then I fell asleep. I spent as much time as I possibly could in the libraries. There was a Christian Science reading room around the corner where I took my naps. Then at the NYU library, there was this boy, Tony, from the law school who kept coming over to me, but I said, "Oh, I can't talk to you because I have to study." And he finally said, "Would you go out to dinner with me, Susan?" I said, "Dinner? I haven't had anything but Dairy Queens and hot dogs for a long time." "Okay." So he came up the 4 flights the next night, and I opened the door, and I looked at Tony, and I wasn't hungry at all. He came in and he was talking to Patty, and I said I was going to take Lucky down to Kirby before we left. So we went down, and when we hit the sidewalk, we just kept walking on to Times Square. And I walked really slowly up to Park Avenue South, and across to Park Avenue. It took us 2.5 hours. When I got home, there was nobody there. The next morning, Patty said to me, "Oh, Susan, thank you so much. I had a wonderful time with Tony at dinner." That weekend, we were all leaving. I was going down to see my parents in Philadelphia. And what about the dog? I looked at Patty. Patty picked up the dog. We went downstairs to 60th and Lexington Avenue and shouted, "Does anybody want a puppy? Leash and all and free!" And Lucky had a home in 5 minutes. When we got back, Elizabeth and I decided to clean the apartment. And as a reward, we decided to go around to the bar around the corner. A rare occurrence. We did not spend money. And as we walked into the bar, Elizabeth strolled around, and then she went up to this man and she said, "You are by far the most handsome man in this bar." And he said, "Oh, my name is Michael. I'll buy you a drink for that." She started to date Michael. She moved in with him. She married him. Patty dated Tony, moved in with him, and married him. I had to find another apartment for the second semester at NYU, but that's another story.